Most business owners end up doing everything themselves because delegating work just never seems to work. And because of that, you might think it's even pointless to try. But after using a simple 3-step system, I stopped repeating myself completely. So I'm going to show you a framework that makes delegation so easy it works even if you're inexperienced or if your team struggles with following instructions. The first step in this model is that you have to give clear instructions, because when you're not crystal clear, you leave room for interpretation, and those interpretations create mistakes. Here's a quick example. A vague instruction would be, can you make me a landing page for the webinar? And the reason it's vague is because it has no details or context. And you really want to add those so people can start doing what you want them to do. So in this case, clear instructions would be, can you make me a landing page for the webinar next Thursday? Use our last webinar as a template and make sure you include a headline, 3 bullet point benefits, speaker bio, and an FAQ. And I want the first draft by Tuesday at 3 p.m. and the final version by Wednesday at noon, so it can go live at the end of the day on Wednesday. You see how different and more clear it is? When you give instructions like that, your team knows exactly what they have to do, how they have to do it, and by when it needs to be done. So make sure that every time you delegate, you include these 3 things. And the first one is a task, so the thing you want them to do, the end result, which means what success looks like or when it's done, and the third one is the deadline, so by when you want things to be done. And that way they have an answer to the 3 biggest questions: what, how, and when. Now, even if your instructions are perfect, there's still one big problem. People can hear the instructions and walk away with totally different interpretation and then do something completely different than what you expected. And that's what we're going to fix in step 2. Step 2 is test for understanding. One of the things that drive most founders nuts is when you just gave some instructions and you think they're clear and you feel confident that the work will be done the right way. But when you see the result, the only thing you want to do is just pull out your hair. Now, the good news is that the fix to this won't take you any longer than 15 to 30 seconds. Right after you've given the instructions, you ask people, hey, just so I know that I explained this clearly, can you tell me in your own words what I asked you to do and what you are going to do? And this isn't about micromanaging people or treating them like kids. It's about being sure that you both understand the same thing and to prevent mistakes from happening and costing you both time and money. Most of the time, people do something different because they had a different understanding of what you asked them to do. So when they repeat things wrong, you just correct them. And you do it again and again until they get it 100% right. Okay, so now we've prevented misunderstanding, but you'll still need step 3 to make sure that no mistakes slip in halfway through. And step 3 is check-in. The mistake most founders make is that they delegate once and then they expect perfect results at the end. And then you're left in a bad place where you have to choose between shipping something you don't like, redoing it yourself, or having the person do everything all over again, which means they spend twice the time on the task while you are still paying for their salary. So do this instead. Set a check-in at 25% of the progress. That way you can see how they started and how things are going. And if it's a bigger task or something really important, add a second check-in at the 50% mark to make sure everything is running smoothly. And before you think it's also starting to look like micromanagement, it's not. Because at each point you get a chance to train or coach them or just to make them better. So it's not about micromanaging. It's about building a team of people who do things right. You're just asking them, hey, show me what you've done so far. Is there anything holding you back? And are we still on track? And if it's on track, good, perfect. Let them run with it. But if it's off track, you can correct early when nothing that can be undone has happened. And this is how you avoid painful surprises both for your employee and yourself, and maybe even for your customers. And by the way, this is also how you train people without doing the job for them. If you do those 3 steps, you'll eliminate most delegation failures. But if you want your team to keep doing it the right way without repeating yourself or without the work just coming back to you at some point, I've got a bonus step for you that's going to turn one-time instructions into forever off your plate. And here's the bonus. build playbooks. I run a 7-figure business in under 20 hours per week, and 80% of that is thanks to that one thing. It's thanks to the playbooks. When you delegate something, you rely on people to remember it. But if you put it in writing in a playbook, you will never have to repeat yourself ever again, because they will always have a source of information to go back to whenever they have questions. And the great thing is that you can do it yourself, or you can ask your employees to document how they did the thing you asked them to do and to write out the process. If it's done right, you've already got 80 to 90% of a playbook right there. Because the goal isn't to delegate something correctly one time. The goal is to turn it into a repeatable process that anybody on your team can follow, so your business isn't relying on you as much. When I hired my first marketer, I didn't want to explain the same things over and over again. So I built a simple playbook. I mapped out what she had to do per task in detail, and then I added a simple weekly schedule where I suggested she would do each task. That way she knew what she had to do, when she should best do it, and how she should do it, and by when everything had to be done. And that playbook helped me onboard her in 2 days. And within 2 weeks, she owned our ads and increased our ROAS from 14-1 to 17-1. Because that's what playbooks do. They turn your delegation into an asset they can use over and over again. So the full system is: 1, you give clear instructions mentioning what, how, and when. 2, you test for understanding to make sure you both understood the same thing. And 3, you check in at 25 or 50% to make sure everything is going smoothly. And then you build playbooks, so you never have to explain yourself or take the work back at some point. Now, one important note: this system works best when you have the right person in the right seat. No amount of training or delegating tactics will magically turn the wrong person into a top performer. So if you want to build a team of people who can take care of your business so it runs without you, watch this video next, where I show you how to hire the best people for your business without you having to second guess yourself and wonder if you're going to hire the right person this time.